Good afternoon. It's 1 p.m. We're ready to begin our webinar titled Managing Your Reaction to Volatility in Your Business and Your Investments. Before I introduce our guest expert, let me say this webinar is a presentation of the Community Economic Development Fund in Meriden, Connecticut. I'm Frederick Welk, a business advisor for CEDF clients. The Community Economic Development Fund is a nonprofit organization which provides enterprises in Connecticut with term loans, lines of credit, and commercial mortgages when they can't get traditional bank financing. We welcome our webinar participants who include CEDF clients and business owners from across Connecticut. For practicality and to improve the program quality, we're muting the lines of everyone tuned in. If you develop questions, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and we'll get to as many of the questions as the hour permits. This presentation is being recorded and CEDF will make the program available on our website in the coming days. And we've moved that content to our new educational website at weteachsuccess.org/replays. Volatility may be a term that causes you to think about the stock market, but it makes many appearances in the business world, from the price of your supplies to seasonal and cyclical sales trends, and even in the behavior of your employees. Today, we're going to learn why people have such strong reactions to economic volatility. Well, because it's wired in our brains, and how the right ideas can lead you toward creating effective strategies and smart planning to manage your reactions. Jenny DeRosa Bergeron is the founding member of Athene Wealth Management. Jenny specializes in pre- and post-retirement planning, education planning, employee retirement plans, and insurance strategies. After graduating Phi Beta Kappa with her bachelor's degree from Trinity College, Jenny obtained her Series 7 and 66 securities licenses, plus her health, accident, and long-term care insurance licenses. Jenny has won more than 10 awards in her 19 years of industry experience. Welcome, Jenny. We appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again. And volatility, right? It's like COVID. We're probably sick of hearing about it. But this year, we've had a lot of time to reassess our lives from several perspectives. And in the middle of the panic and sadness at times, there have been opportunities to thrive. I continually draw parallels between what's happening in the markets and in my clients' lives, especially for business owners, because the two, they just go together. In managing volatility, while I'll say at times, we're going to get through this. We know this ends. We just don't know how, or this won't last forever. And while people do understand that, I find that what helps, and I'm hoping it will help you to go over some, stats today, is that the reality of history and statistics often get us to stop, take a breath, and look at things a little bit more rationally so we can manage our reactions and plan. But first, I want to encourage you, and I'm sure you've all gotten a lot of encouragement this year. You can have hope and faith in yourself, in your business, in the market, in the economy. We do go on. There's been a lot of innovation and ingenuity that's come out of this. When I think about it, if this happened in the 1960s and we didn't have all of the technology we have, we would have been in much more of a, but you may have found that, you enjoy actually working out via Zoom if you don't like to wear your mask now that they went back, back to that. Or you may have found that while it might not be good for your landlord, that you really didn't need as big of a facility and things like that. You may have found it gave you time to step back. And a lot of what I'll be talking about today is stepping back and finding another line of business, whether that be a product or a service you offer. So, while none of this has been perfect and it hasn't been comfortable, it's really the small wins and reassessments that we often have to look at in the market that you should look at in your business that are stepping stones to thriving through volatility. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look at understanding volatility, understanding the markets, understanding your brain. That's going to come from a scientific perspective, planning for it. As always, with a lot of the things I talk about, it's top line. You then have to go back and really think about how it applies to you. So, volatility, why it exists and how it acts. So it's a great perspective when we think about a bear, which I kind of like because we talk about bear markets and there's a direct correlation there with the market. But if you're walking along and you see a bear and it jumped in front of you, we would want to run. But we know from wildlife experts that's contrary to our natural instincts, you don't want to run. You really want to, stand it down in the sense of, getting on the ground and playing dead, covering your head, etc. There's no way to outrun, outswim, or outclimb a bear. So your best bet is to face it, right? So that's true of a bear market. By fleeing the market, you only make the situation worse. And it's the same thing in your business. So when you think of the times you've run from a problem or a challenge, it just got worse. That could be a problem client, it could be a problem employee, it could be the fact that the particular way you were doing business isn't resonating with the market any longer. But just remember this when your first instinct is to run. Be careful, stop and think. So investing is hard, and that's whether it's in the market or in your business when things get rough. When I've counseled folks later rapid downturn, a key to it was a key to facing the stress was staying the course and remembering that it's not the money that kept them invested. It was really what the money represents. So, and it's the same thing in your business. People invest because they want choices, they want flexibility, they want freedom. They're trying to create a different future for themselves. Money is just the tool. So when you think about your business, when times get tough, try to remember the why, right? Try to remember why you became an entrepreneur, why this all sounded so glamorous and wonderful, right? Was it that you wanted to make your own hours, that you didn't want to ask for vacation, that you wanted to just go on vacation, that you wanted to make a certain amount of money, right? You didn't want to make money for other people. Was it because you thought you had a better idea, and you probably do, or you wanted to create a legacy for your loved ones? So again, having a business is just like investing, and we can learn from it. It really comes from a deeply personal place that really you want to remember. When times get tough, we start to focus just on the bottom line and the numbers, and we really want to get away from that. So when you experience pain, why do we keep doing it, right? Why do we endure the stress and stay in business? Well, again, it's a lot like investing in money. We know that if we take it and we put it under the mattress, we're never going to keep pace with inflation. And if we do that, our money will probably run out, right? So we want to create a lifestyle for ourselves. We want our money to last hopefully until the day we pass, if we're not going to pass it on to other folks. We're growing potential for our future. No one's going to do that for us. Well, in business, you know that sometimes punching the clock only allows you to make so much. And you decide that being in business, you have an opportunity. Yes, there are risks, but you can grow into the future. So you're investing in yourself to surpass what I call salary inflation. So, what I mean by that is you're going to have your review, you're maybe going to get a merit increase, you're maybe going to get an inflation increase. But when you went into business for yourself, you certainly weren't thinking that way, that there was just a certain number that you could make in every year. So when the market goes down, because that does have a connection to the economy, especially when it's consistent and sustained, we worry. And how can we understand this volatility? Volatility, which is really sell-offs in the market, is normal. And it actually helps us make more money when we stay committed. So maybe if we can go through that rationale, you can remember that and, either while we're on this webinar or after, apply that to your own business. And that will help keep you rational and in line when things get scary. So in the market, volatility really is changing stock prices. You'll experience that in your business if your income goes up and down, or maybe human capital, salaries, or things you produce, are fluctuating. So in stock prices, it can change wildly, short-term, day-to-day, month-to-month, and that certainly can be unnerving when you're losing value. But if you focus on the short term, that's really where the trouble happens. You want to continue to look long term. So one of the ways that we do this with stock prices is if you are committed and you are purchasing stock continuously, you're going to purchase it when you bought it, say for $1 a share. Maybe in a month it goes up to $10. Maybe next month it goes down to 50 cents, and over time it goes to 5. So if you don't focus on the time when it's 50 cents and you're losing money, but instead you focus on the fact that you're buying more shares for less, we call that dollar cost averaging. And statistically, you're always going to be buying more shares for less when you stay in it. You get away from those wild fluctuations in the emotions, and you can take a step back and say, okay, this is normal. This happens throughout history, and I'm actually ahead of the game because I'm staying in it to win it. So staying in your business to win it is important, but also just like an investment portfolio, you may have to rebalance. So you can, when you take a step back, remember, okay, where do I need to shift in my business? Because if you decide to scrap it, like you'll see later on, when you decide to scrap being in the market, the only thing you're really going to guarantee is that you're going to capture your losses, right? So take advantage of times when things are cheaper, and maybe you can buy them cheaper, or maybe even in like COVID when business had stopped, it really did force us to take a step back and reassess our business. So, why does volatility happen? Well, everyone's trying to hedge their bets. They want the best deal and they want to make as much money as possible. If it looks like stock prices might decrease, they get out and they hopefully will make a profit at the top of the market. If things are looking good, they get excited, the future appears bright, investors buy. They think that their investments will only go up in value. So, and you'll surely see this not only in your own business, especially when people are coming in, and you can see their behaviors when they're buying your products or services. Investors in the markets they invest in prefer stability, right? Stability means things are likely to continue the way they have been. When there's instability, investors get nervous and sell. That's kind of that reaction to the bear. It's not what we want to do. They think things aren't likely to get better. So that might sound familiar in your business over this past year. No one likes uncertainty, but when you realize that human behavior lends us to hedging our bets and reacting, it becomes less scary. It just becomes behavior. So maybe next time when sell-offs are happening, you can see this as an opportunity. Maybe you can buy inventory for less, or an opportunity to apply some innovation and edge out your competition. So how can we handle volatility? What do we do with it? Well, first we need to understand how volatility has occurred through history. If you understand how the markets have acted in the past, you can put that into perspective. And they have gotten very volatile with major upswings, not just in 2020, but throughout history. And in the end, they have always trended upward. Secondly, it's important to remember that volatility is a common event in the long term, and it will be in your business. Again, look at it as an opportunity. Thirdly, have a plan. How are you going to handle volatility, change the bad times? Revisit that plan often and stick to it. So when we look at the market, stocks rise over the long term. The S&P as we know it really was first launched in 1957. Before that, it was an S&P 90 index. So, when we look going back to 1928 to 2020, you'll see that the market goes up, right? This shows how the market has performed historically. And despite always having ups and downs over the long term, it's gone up. So without these low times, we know that there wouldn't be opportunities to purchase things low and potentially make money in the future. So when things are low, again, you want to see that opportunity and purchase. That will drive the market up. So the same thing can happen in business. When things aren't going well, eventually, right? Look at the housing market. Interest rates are down, housing prices might be up, but people are using that opportunity to either refi or purchase. So for people that were in that business, that things may have halted or got scary in volatile times, investor demand. So that could be anything, not just the market. People say, okay, now it's the time to buy. It's just a cycle. That cycle starts all over again and things start to go up. So it makes sense that those cycles are going to continue. And there's always going to be someone that sees that opportunity by investing in businesses, by purchasing whatever you offer. So just remember that everything we looked at is showing how the market's performed in the past, and the same thing can be true with business cycles. So, you look at declines, right? The fortunate thing is that we've just experienced a deep recession that was, COVID forced. And now actually we're in a bull market. You're just not hearing a lot of people talk about it. But when we look at the Lehman bankruptcy, which is something that's fresh because it happened in '08 and it was related to the Great Recession, the market did recover. There was a 46% shift, and it took 285 days to recover. But most people remember more the terrorist attacks of 9/11. And believe it or not, that only took 19 days to recover. So why do we remember that more? Because it had more emotion attached to it. So, market timing, whether it be in your business or in the market itself, can really cost investors significantly because we're human. When things are looking bad, we want to get out. But remember what we said at the beginning with the bear, right? Fleeing the market when things start to get scary, you could miss out on the best days of the market. So missing just 20 best days of the year, that's not even a month. Your portfolio is going to be down 27% if we look at the S&P as a guide and we look at numbers over time. Whereas if you hold the space and you reinvest based upon, what your goals are, you're going to be in the money. You're going to be ahead of the game. So, markets tend to have the best days and the worst days close together. So that's another thing that you want to remember. And we're going to be getting into the psychology of the brain, what actually makes us do these things. But, within the space of 2 weeks, if we look at '08 again, the market was down 9% and then it was up, almost 11%. So when you're in that fright space, the worst thing to do is to react right away. There's people that certainly look at market forecasting and they've never always gotten it right. If that was the true, we would have one person that we would always, always be following in. But remember how this applies to, to your business. So when you're looking at your numbers, remember look long term. It's easy to focus month to month, but what about year over year or since inception when you started your business? How is that going to change your perspective on failure or success? Will that change your feelings of being overwhelmed and panic in bad times? Also, what has happened in the past when you've had a decline? Did it stay that way forever or did you recover? And third, what would have happened if you pulled out and called it a day and cashed in? You might be getting out and saving yourself what you think is some pain. But again, the only thing you're going to capture, just like people who do this in the market, is your losses. So remember that when you're getting emotional about volatility in your business. So, now that we've looked a little bit at history, let's take a look at, understanding the science and what happens to our brain when money is involved. So money activates, believe it or not, the emotional part of our brain. We might think that because money's related to math, it's going to involve the logical part of our brain, but scientists have found just the opposite. Money activates the emotional part of our brain, the amygdala, and I think I've got that right, or the lizard brain. The lizard brain is one that simply reacts and responds to external stimulus without pausing to consider the facts. This happens to all of us. We can't help it. It's just simply how our brains function. So the lizard brain activates the fight or flight response, and it does so immediately. It sees a threat and it aims to mitigate it. So that means if you're losing money, our fight or flight kicks in automatically. Driven by emotion, we feel the need to do absolutely anything to prevent loss. Even if when removed from the situation, we might make different decisions. Well, what do your emotions drive you to do when it comes to investing? For most of us, if we see dollar signs, we want to buy. We feel a rush of excitement and possibility. But if we see loss, we want to sell. We feel a rush of fear and fear of losing our future. And as we discussed, both of these are in opposition to what we know we should do. And we also talk about that with the media as well. If the media is telling you one thing when it comes to investing, you should probably either do nothing or do the opposite. So one way I help folks with this in the market, and you might want to think about it in terms of your business if you're looking to make a radical shift out of fear, is if you're going to, go to a store and everything is on sale, you're never going to walk away from the counter or not press the buy now button online. You are going to buy because things are on sale. So think about that. You'd be crazy to walk away from a 40 or 50% sale at your favorite market. So why would you do that when it comes to the stock market or your business? But our lizard brain does not want to help us make decisions. It wants to, trick us into doing what's going to feel right at that minute. So the good news is you can train your brain. You can train your brain to go against its natural wiring. So think about creating a new habit. After you consciously choose to do something repeatedly for several days, you'll eventually do it automatically. And when you do this, you're creating new pathways in your brain. You're actually changing it. So you want to activate the logical part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex. And by using that part of your brain, you can train yourself to remove emotion from the equation. So, there's a secret to that, right? So use this part of your brain to plan to plan how you will react when something negative is happening next time. Recognize that your brain wants you to react and decide that you will go against it. It's kind of like, when you meditate or do yoga and thoughts come in, it's okay, recognize it and just let it go. So if you know your emotional brain will drive you to want to sell out of your plan, to not follow it, your marketing strategy, acknowledge it. Decide ahead of time that you won't do it. And it's hard to do. It goes against that ancient wiring I was talking about. So the best way to do this is to have an accountability partner. You can read and Google and listen to webinars all you want, but it's really important to have a good accountability partner that's going to help empower you and stick to your strategy. That could be an accountant, that could be a financial advisor, that could be a business partner, it could be a spouse, it could be a friend or a family member. Just remember, when you choose, remember to choose someone that's not going to allow you to rest on your laurels, that's not going to feel bad for you and allow you to slip into old habits, which might be bad, and that you may have to change up that accountability partner from time to time. Remain teachable. You may partner with someone who thinks differently than you do on a lot of fronts. That sometimes is a really good strategy. And you want to make a commitment to stick to your plan. Okay. So now that we've talked a little bit about volatility, what's an easy way to plan for volatility and help your brain stay committed more to logic and rationale? And there's really three simple fundamentals that we use in investing all the time that I found for my own business and for my entrepreneurial clients works really well. And it's taking the three pillars of goals, timeline, and risk tolerance and applying them to your business. So remember that your goals should be certain and well defined. Is it to become the regional leader of your market? Is it to earn a certain amount of money? Is it to pass a legacy to your loved ones? Is it just to get up for work every day and love what you do? Is it to be profitable within a certain number of years? So goals should never involve things that you can't control, like the market, the economy, or buyer behavior, okay? Then you want to make sure you apply a timeline to this. So how long do you want to achieve these factors? And that may have to fluctuate, but this is where you don't want to let your emotions or your amygdala or anything that's too emotional, fight or flight, or what I like to call your BS reaction, get involved here. That's where an accountability partner can help. So how long what's the timeline you will want to apply to your goals? How long do you want to work before you have an exit strategy? How long do you want to work actively in business before you turn it into just an income stream? What is your dollar amount that you want to make in your first year, second year, third year? How long is it going to take to pay off your debt, right? How long is it going to take you to open up a new location? So you want to apply a timeline. And then also, what is your risk tolerance? So what can you stand to risk? Now that may be different for you if you're younger or healthy, right? And or healthy. From a money perspective, some people are at the point in their life where they can risk everything, right? They could lose everything. They could lose their home. They don't mind renting. They know they have time to build it back. Or is it from a time perspective? Are you only willing to risk your hours in a week? Are you only willing to work 6 days a week versus, 7 days a week? Or is it from a, mental health perspective? Is your risk tolerance all about how you feel, or is it from a diversification perspective? Think about risk in terms of how you want to diversify your practice. So, would you risk everything if you only offered one product or one service? Can you have a plan, which is going to help you stay logical and rational, where you can have a second product or service? You may not offer it right away, but if some volatility kicks in, you've got your marketing plan done, you've got your business plan done for it, you've got your online portal, whatever it is, and boom, you can go ahead and you can launch that. So when we look at volatility, we know that it's going to happen. And don't panic. When you start to panic, go to something like a history of the market. If you've been in business long enough, a history of your business that resets your brain so that you remember that volatility is inevitable. It's normal, and there's always going to be opportunities connected to your bottom line that you could take advantage of. History and science show us that running doesn't work. So prepare now, right? Plan now if you haven't. Get your business plan together. Work with someone from SCORE. Take a course in something. Maybe get your standard operating procedures down in your process if you found that that was something that negatively impacted your business when COVID hit. Plan to stick with your plan. Get that accountability partner. Talk to them about what you're trying to do. Then revisit your plan often. Maybe switch it up if you need to, switch up your accountability partner and partner with professionals where they may be able to help you along the way. Do not think that you have to do this all yourself. So with that, Fred, I wanted to know if you or anyone else had any questions.
Well, let's give our participants a minute or so here to type in any questions using the Q&A feature at the bottom of their screen. But I've got a couple of things I wanted to ask you about, Jenny.
Sure.
We've been fortunate, I guess, to have what would we say, a quick recovery in the market, even if not every business has been fortunate enough to recover in the face of what's going on with COVID this year. But what sort of mistakes do people make in the market when things are going well? What's the upside mistakes that people need to be aware of? And then I guess a second question really related to that I'll ask is, well, what are the upside mistakes in business that people make when things are really going well and they're flying high? Maybe it's involved in personal finance or in spending in the business. What do you think about that? The market and what goes wrong in business when things are not so bad?
So I love these two questions because they actually have the same answer. And it's my business owners, and I remember saying this when I was doing the other talk for you, that I struggle with most to get them to see this, because when everything is going well, people do not rebalance. They don't look at their portfolio. They think I'm making money, so everything is always going to stay this way. And it's the same thing in business. So whether it be business or your portfolio, whether you're doing it on your own or with a professional, or like a team of people in your business, you want to make sure that you're constantly looking at your allocation and the investments you're in and rebalancing as necessary. So from an investment perspective, if you have determined that you are willing to have a high level of risk, so maybe we equate that to having 80 or 90% of your portfolio in stocks, equities, right? Well, when stocks do well, the value of that side of your portfolio goes up. So in 6 months, you may now have 98%. So you say, that's great, I'm making money, I don't want to change anything. But when we have a correction or a dip 5% in the market, correction 10%, bear market 20%, recession, kapooey, right? We know historically we're going to recover, so that's good if you can keep that prefrontal cortex going and you don't pull out. But if you don't rebalance to add more fixed income, which are conservative investments, to bring those equities back down to that 80 or 90, you don't want the market to rebalance you in terms of a blow up. So it's the same thing with your business. When things are going well, sure, you might take a longer lunch here or there, but don't get complacent. Don't rest on the laurels. Let's just say you offer 3 different products and product A is bringing in 80% of your income. Well, that's really great, but at some point the market may turn. So you want to make sure that you're working on products B and C so that you can get more market share and more sales for them, or take the time to do the vetting to maybe get rid of product C and only focus on A and B. You follow where I'm going, Fred? And I also want to mention in business and investing, and the investing part is more about the planning side. You want to look at your expenses and your income. So cost containment works in a crisis in business, and it works in a crisis in your personal life. Do not wait for a crisis. So look at what you're spending in business. Look at what you're spending yourself. I'm not telling you to live on ramen noodles. I am not telling you to give up how you want to live, because that's a big reason why most of us go into business, right? It's lifestyle. So you want to put together what you spend, not because of the nasty B word, budget, right? Because budgets make people recoil. But what about doing an expense accounting so you know how you live? So that way, when you look at it, you say, oh my goodness, I'm spending all this money on X and I don't really like X. So I'm going to change that. Or, oh my goodness, I have money left over and I hate cleaning my house. I'm going to hire a cleaning person because that fits in my budget. You can apply that to both your business and your personal life. So when a crash, and I hate to use that word, but when a crash does come, you are way ahead of the game in managing it. Way ahead.
One other thing that comes to mind is that, and I presume that, you've got some business owners that are some of your investment clients.
Sure.
Well, and probably all of them are closely held businesses. They're probably not in this publicly held companies.
Right.
Well, that's owning a whole lot of one company. And how do you balance that idea against having a balanced investment portfolio when all of your income fundamentally has to come from the success of one company?
So amazing question. Another one that I love. And this one is more generational, I find. So like your baby boomers tend to own a business and that's their retirement. Not a great idea. It, I can only, I'm sure there are statistics out there, but in my own experience, both in my practice and outside of that, it doesn't always go well because you can't always sell the business for what you thought it was worth. And a lot of that has to do with market changes, by the way. It's nothing you did wrong.
That's
So now you're working until you're 85, not just because you want to, because I see that with clients, but because you have to, or you're selling everything in a fire sale. And I also talk to people about this with pensions. I work with quite a few people that work in the public sector, have pensions still. The clients that do the best also put money away on their own. That could be a self-directed IRA, traditional or Roth. It could be what we call a taxable account. You might hear of it as a TOD. It could be choosing to participate in a 403 or 403B because the company offered it in addition to the pension. So when you have a business and you're diversified within your business, that's your first line of defense, but then get into the market. Get into the market and don't just, so let's just say you're in the energy business and you know the energy business and you're an expert and I bow to you for that. Well, for the love of God, let's not buy energy stocks. Let's do other things.
Makes a lot of sense. We haven't drawn any other questions. So Jenny, I want to say we really appreciate your time today to school our small business owners on controlling their emotional reaction to businesses and investments, volatility and the ups and downs. Now, if more questions develop in the future, what's the best way to reach you?
Sure. You can reach me via email on the screen there, jenny@athenewealth.com. You can always go on to my website, athenewealth.com, and find me there. or you can call 430-2637. We're happy to help in any way.
Well, many thanks for a great perspective today. As a reminder, this webinar was a presentation of the Community Economic Development Fund in Meriden, Connecticut. For the 7th year in a row, we're Connecticut's top SBA microlender, and we make business term loans at very nominal interest rates, as small as a few $1,000s, and larger business loans too, from a pool of loan capital provided by many of the state's leading banks. There are geographic and/or income qualification requirements for the borrowers. You can find out more about all of this at cedf.com. We've recorded this presentation and we're going to make it available in the coming days. Remember, we've moved our educational content to a new web address. That's weteachsuccess.org/replays. I'm Frederick Welk. We thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.